Hello and welcome back to Sports Talk with Dad. This is a show where we talk about sports based on our own generational perspectives. My name is Kyle, and as always, I cannot call this Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me, a man who is best friends with both Adam and Eve, my dad, Tim.
Adam and Eve,
Yeah, why not?
they're a nice couple. But forget that. What is this on the wall?
It's Joe Burrow
Why is he on the wall?
because he walks on water. I am all in on Joe Burrow, officially my new favorite player in the NFL. He is amazing. You realize he's going to feed the entire stadium with just a fish and a loaf of bread.
We will talk about that game a little later in the
I am
show.
all in.
Okay, obviously, I can't believe you did that. But let's get on to the other big news. I mean, you were gone this week. You took a little vacation with the kids,
I did.
and hopefully you had a good time.
Had a great time. Yeah, I went to Wisconsin Dells. Got to hang out there for a little while. Get to see the indoor water parks. And
Did you have a Monk's Burger?
didn't have Monks. Did go to Moose Jaw though, which if you're ever there, best pizza you can have. I'm a big Moose Jaw fan.
Okay. Well, while you were gone, the NBA trade deadline came through.
It was really hard to not pay attention to my phone. There's a lot going on this week, but the James Harden trade shocks me. And I'm not alone on this. It shocks a lot of people. I'm surprised the Nets were willing to give him up. I know he's been injured a little bit, but he's still one of the best shooters in the game.
I think his attitude all year has been, get me away from Kyrie Irving.
Oh, I think that has a big part to do with it. I mean, I think he's done with the part-time player. He's out there busting his ass, and Kyrie Irving sitting on the bench, not hurt. I get the vaccination status. It's your call.
Right.
I'm not here to talk about that. That is what it is. But I would be frustrated if I'm sitting there and having to get hurt and deal with different things in the NBA, and then you're just sitting on the bench still getting paid.
Right.
And then all of a sudden you come into this part-time player role because you can't play in our home stadium. That would frustrate me too.
And I think he wanted out. I really think he was at the end of the rope with it. I think Ben Simmons going to Brooklyn is going to be interesting because Kevin Durant is going to demand a lot more from Simmons this year.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be good for Simmons, though.
I do too.
Kevin Durant's been an established player for a long time, and they're very similar in their game. Obviously, Kevin Durant's a much more well-rounded player, but he could be pushing Simmons to be just that. And on the defensive side of the ball, that's where the Bucks really won last year in the playoffs. Was they could get into that post.
Giannis could really dominate Blake Griffin.
Yeah, Blake Griffin, was dealing with some injuries, and here now you have a young player that I think has a lot of the same skill set as Giannis. I think Giannis just puts in more of the work to make sure he's the best player he can be.
And I think last year it came down to Kevin Durant's size 13 shoe rather than the size 10 shoe.
One size smaller, and that's
it's a different playoffs, and the Bucks may not make it, but they did. I think Philadelphia is going to be much better. James Harden is going to be a man possessed through the rest of this year.
That's what they're counting on. I mean, they went all in now. It's official. They traded 2 first-round draft picks next year's, which can be pushed to the year after, and a 2027 top 8 protected pick, along with Seth Curry and Andre Drummond, who are also big players. But Harden
is just a scoring machine.
He's
got that X factor. Will it be enough to get over the Bucks with the trade that they made?
We'll see. It's what Philadelphia was missing, though. Mm-hmm. They were missing that shooting in the playoffs. I mean, really, each team just traded for what they were missing in the playoffs the year before. So we'll see. A lot of with the Nets depends on Kyrie Irving and if he's able to play in the playoffs.
Right.
If with Philadelphia, I mean, this is their shot. They need to do everything they can to get over that hump. The Bucks, I don't know if they got better with this one. I don't know. Divincenzo was going to be traded either way. Dante Divincenzo obviously goes to Sacramento, which he was being traded for Bogdanovich before Bogdanovich said, no, I'm not going to Milwaukee. And he was a starter for us, both Grayson Allen playing the way that he has been. He became an easy person to trade at the deadline.
I think he was the only person. He had the most trade value. The Bucks think they have enough players to make up for what they have with Grayson Allen and the rest of the cast. They got Sir Botka, basically because Brook Lopez had to have
Correct.
back surgery.
Correct.
If Lopez comes back and is able to play any kind of minutes along with Sergei Batka, I think the Bucks get over the top again this year.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Brook Lopez needs to come back into the way he was playing last year on the defensive side of the ball. Let him rest. You don't need him till the playoffs. Um, they've been doing the 10-day contracts. They got Cousins there for a little while. They just signed Greg Monroe to a 10-day contract, who had been a Buck for a
Right.
long time and really proved, hey, Milwaukee can sign free agents.
And I think the big thing is they don't want Giannis to have to play the five a whole lot.
Correct.
And when you have Batka and Lopez, like you said, he can rest all year. The
Right.
playoffs are all that matters. If they can come back healthy so Giannis can play his game outside more,
Right.
I think the Bucks are in good shape.
Well, it's an amazing shift. We always talked about that shift was going to happen where the West was so dominant for
Mm-hmm.
so long, and you're starting to see the best teams now being in the East. And I think one of those three teams are going to once again be NBA champions. I think it runs through the East.
I think it does too. The Lakers seem to be imploding.
Listen, LeBron's falling apart and been playing every game his entire career, and I love that about him. It's just he's getting to that age where he's starting to break down, and unfortunately, he's surrounded himself with players that are also breaking down.
The whole Westbrook experiment just failed miserably.
Yeah, you
Uh,
knew it was going to from the word go. You have just a very old roster. You
right.
don't have anybody on that team. LeBron needs to be able to play second fiddle at this point, and I don't think he's willing to. I don't think he ever will
He's
be
never been
willing
that
to.
guy. I think it's going to come down to Golden State or Phoenix again to see which of those teams is going to come out
Yeah,
and play
Golden
one of the
State's
three teams
dangerous.
in the East.
I agree. Phoenix has been quietly good. We'll see what happens. The Bucks definitely have a good shot. They definitely got better. Philadelphia scares me. I think that was huge for them. The Nets, again, it depends on Kyrie.
Well, Kyrie and Durant and how far they're going to take them. I think, honestly, for this year alone, I think Philadelphia gets the better of that trade,
Yeah.
and I think they're going to be. I don't want the Bucks to have to face them early in the playoffs.
No, and I don't think it will. It's those are your 1 and 2
Right.
seeds at this point, and I think that continues. The Bulls are in there too, but when it comes down to playoff time, I mean that's when you're going to see teams stepping
The
up.
three best teams are in the East this year.
Yeah.
And we'll see, and hopefully the Bucks will go on another magic run. Although it's going to be hard. I don't want to have to wait another 50 years to see the Bucks win.
No, not at all. That was a fun experience to be
It
down in the
was.
Deer District for Game 6 and to see a championship come to Milwaukee.
So let's move on to the other incredible, fantastic, long overdue big news. Leroy Butler, the man who invented the Lambeau Leap, is in the Hall of Fame.
He is. He
Well
is. I never
deserved.
thought it would happen.
I was beginning to wonder, but he's in there where he belongs. The Packers now are one player closer to having the most players in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
I'd trade that for another Super Bowl victory personally, but
Yeah, Leroy Butler definitely deserving of it. I mean, he was one of the best safeties in the 90s.
he was. He was that dynamic personality in the clubhouse.
He was.
He really kept the team going. He was a great defensive back. He just was dominant. He hit hard, and it's good to see him in the Hall of Fame finally.
I agree. Again, I didn't think it would happen. Wearing 36, it makes me think about Nick Collins and what Nick Collins should have been had he not gotten injured, because he would have been in that conversation too.
Oh, he would have been. I think he would have been a Hall of Famer, and I think that injury, that Nick Collins injury,
That's what's cost the Packers Super Bowls
that
all these
has
years. Because, I mean, think how many draft picks we've spent trying to replace Nick Collins.
seemed like every year until we got Jair Alexander.
Yeah. We have yet to have a defensive back that's been as dominant at that safety position. I
What a
mean, he was a great replacement for Charles Woodson. Or he was actually side by side with Charles
right,
Woodson for all
right.
those
It
years.
was
He
just a
was on
fluke
that Super Bowl
injury.
team.
It was a fluke injury. It's for those who don't remember, Nick Collins got hit on the head, kind of making a tackle, and the guy basically sat on him,
That was it.
and that was it.
Twisted his neck just right.
Yeah, and that was the end of his career. Very sad. But the Packers, as always, with players like that, he's become part of the Packer family.
Yep, and Leroy Butler, a huge part of the Packer family. Like you said, invented the Lambeau leap, got the ball flipped to him, runs in, jumps in the stands, and it is a part of Packer lore ever since.
And to the point where when the No Fun League was trying to get rid of touchdown celebrations,
Couldn't get rid of Lambeau leap.
Lambeau Leap wasn't going anywhere.
Nope. It is a part of that stadium. It's a part of tradition, and some other people going into the Hall of Fame as well. Tony Baselli finally getting in. He should have been in a while
Should have
ago.
been in.
Dick Vermeil getting in. Good for him. I mean,
Dick Vermeil, he's going to cry while he's giving his speech. That's just the kind of guy he is.
Yep.
But certainly well deserved with the Eagles and then with the Rams.
Yeah. I mean, he just kept turning franchises around.
He did. I always loved his coaching style.
Yeah.
Players loved him.
He did.
And he's well deserved to be in there. As you said, Baselli for a long time, it was one question whether Jerry Kramer or him would get in first. I'm glad they're both there now.
I am too. What about the players that didn't get in, though? I don't understand how Andre Johnson and Devin Hester are not elected into the Hall of Fame.
Devin Hester doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame is why he wasn't elected.
Devin Hester 100% belongs in the Hall of Fame.
He ran back a few touchdowns. He didn't do anything else. He was a bad wide receiver.
He was never meant to be a wide receiver. The only reason the Bears moved him to wide receiver was to justify giving him a huge contract.
Oh, and there you go. And that's why he doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame. He was a kickoff specialist. Gale Sayers ran back just as many touchdowns as he did. And oh, by the way, he was one of the best running backs who have ever played the game.
He didn't because Devin Hester holds the record all time for kicks returned for touchdowns.
He does not belong in the Hall of Fame. He was a
He's
specialist.
the most dynamic player on the field for
3 or 4 years. I don't think it was 6 years. I think it was.
It 100% was. It was 5-6 years. He ran one back in the Super Bowl. He was a player you had to plan for.
Sure.
He was a player you had to work around. If you were going to punt the ball, you had to be ready because Devin Hester could take any of them back. You talk about field position. I don't see you gave the case for Ray Guy at one point being in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, Rhaegar was much more of a weapon than Devin Hester was.
I disagree. It's all if you want a punter in there, it's all about field position. That's where Devin Hester gave the offense an upper hand.
Disagree completely. But as you're watching this, please comment below. Let us know if you think Devin Hester belongs in the Hall of Fame or not.
He does.
No.
I don't understand how you don't think Devin Hester belongs in the Hall of Fame.
He was look, he wanted to be a wide receiver. He left the Bears to become a wide receiver.
Well, he left the Bears because his contract was up. The Bears, for whatever reason, didn't sign him.
He was so one-dimensional. Yes, he was a good run back guy, but he's not a Hall of Famer for that. I just don't think he belongs in the Hall of Fame. I think that would
when it comes to
lessen the Hall of Fame.
If you're going to put Ray Guy in the Hall of Fame, you put Devin Hester in for the same reason.
Ray Guy was there for years and years.
Correct, but we're talking about the best to ever do something. Those are the people that belong in the Hall of Fame. If you're going to put Kurt Warner in the Hall of Fame,
again,
as the first ballot Hall of Famer, Devin Hester goes in the Hall of Fame.
That's a line you're going to use from now until the end of time with the Kurt Warner thing. He's the bar. But Devin Hester, I'll say this. I'll take Kurt Warner and think he belongs before I say Devin Hester belongs.
Oh, you're out of your mind.
No.
You're out of your mind. He was the best at what he did for several years.
Doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame. He's just a special team run back guy that didn't have any kind of. If as a run back guy, where you're only playing on a few kicks a game, he should have lasted more than 5 or 6 years. He should have been doing that for 10 to 12 years, and he didn't.
He was in the league for 10 to 12 years, running kicks back. And again, you want to talk about Hall of Fame? To me, it's a player that was the best, one of the best in the game for a 5+ year period.
No, it's got to be for that 7, 8, 9 year period. Hester wasn't.
Terrell Davis great in the Hall of Fame.
He was great for. Who would you just ask?
Terrell Davis for the Broncos. Are you telling me he played in 78 games?
Different. Well, we can have that argument, but he was a running back. He was a real player, not just a kickoff guy.
Oh.
No, and I know the Bear fans are going to hate me, and I know a lot of them already do, but no, he's just a a lowly bear kickoff guy that doesn't
No,
belong in the
Devin
Hall of
Hester is
Fame.
one of the most electric people to watch in football. Growing up watching, everybody knew who Devin Hester was.
Sure.
Everybody, I was as a Packer fan watching Devin Hester. I was hoping they'd kick it to him just because I wanted to see what Devin Hester could do. He was so electrifying. He's a player I always wanted to see with the ball. God,
No, he's not a Hall of Famer, nor should he ever be in the Hall of Fame unless he buys a ticket. Then he should be able to go in and see who the other great
I don't
players.
understand how you can defend Ray Guy and not defend Devin Hester going to the Hall of Fame.
Because Ray Guy did it for over a decade and he was a true weapon. And Devin
How is Devin
Hester,
Hester not a true weapon?
he was for a short period of time. I'll give you that. But you don't put somebody in the Hall of Fame for 3, 4, 5 years. Just don't.
All right, we're going to move on from this one. You're wrong. Let us know in the comments below why I'm right, because obviously this guy's too old to understand greatness at this point. But we will move on to the next conversation.
You're too
here.
young to have seen what it takes to be a Hall of Famer, obviously. But let's go on. Go on.
Nonsense. Nonsense. We had some big awards coming into play as well.
One of them makes me very, very sad, but go on.
So we have the NFL awards here, which Aaron Rodgers getting the MVP. I didn't think it was possible, but yeah, how could you not give it to him? He had an amazing year. It was a sad way to end it.
Sad, awful way to end it.
It was.
Here's my thing about this. Rodgers deserved it because he did have an incredible regular season. But got knocked out in the first round. Basically, he didn't show up for that game. He
did,
played
but the
really
voting's in by
badly.
the time the playoffs comes around. It's a regular season award.
I get that. I understand that. I'm talking about Rodgers in general, though. He gets to the playoffs and there's something that's not there. He withers.
He does. I mean, that's what Peyton Manning did as well for all those years. He ended up getting a couple Super Bowls, but it was the same concept.
Right.
The
And we'll talk about
regular season quarterback of all time, and then just withers in the playoffs, and it's the same thing. And yeah, we're gonna go into more detail on that here in a minute, but. Defensive Player of the Year, T.J. Watt. Mr. Should have been a Packer, T.J. Watt.
He will always be known as T.J. Watt. Pittsburgh Steelers should have been a Packer.
Yep. Cooper Kupp, Offensive Player of the Year. Obvious choice. Mr. Joe Burrow.
Hold on. Back up. Cooper Kupp should not have been the Offensive Player of the Year. That should have been Jonathan Taylor.
Cooper Kupp literally set a record. How do you not give the Offensive Player of the Year to a guy that...
I think Jonathan Taylor overall had a better season.
Jonathan Taylor had a great year.
Yeah,
Jonathan Taylor's on my fantasy team. Trust me, I enjoy his success.
And this is just one of those where Cooper Kupp, Jonathan Taylor, it could have went either way.
Right.
Personally, I just think Jonathan Taylor should have got the award. I think he had an outstanding year.
I will say, if you're talking about a player that had more of an impact on his team, I do think Jonathan Taylor carried that team.
He did.
And Cooper Kupp did too. But Matthew Stafford was a huge part of that, where Jonathan Taylor was really on his own. When Carson Wentz
not compare, he can't compare
what he was later in the season.
And he's not Matthew Stafford.
Taylor definitely carried that team.
Yes.
I thought Jonathan Taylor should have been more in the conversation for MVP.
I think he was, but
so I can see it from that point of view. You have to give it to Cooper Kupp just because he set the record for all-time receiving yards in a season. He was consistent throughout the year, and Jonathan Taylor had a couple of games where he disappeared.
I still would have given it to Jonathan Taylor. I thought he had a great year, and I'm going to defend my Badgers.
Not biased at all. I like it.
No biases. None at all. None.
Joe Burrow, obviously deserving comeback player of the year.
What a year. What a year.
Okay. About to Joe Burrow. We have, now this is what I find interesting here. The Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year, they moved that to the last thing they talk about. It's not the MVP or Coach of the Year anymore.
No, it's not. And I love the Walter Payton Man of the Year award.
Oh, I do too. I'm a big fan.
And Whitworth was they all have, every player nominated in this category, I think should feel honored to be put up against Walter Payton.
Yeah.
And congratulations to Whitworth.
I loved his speech, gave me goosebumps.
I haven't seen his speech yet. I have to
So he
admit.
talks about how one of the guy Barnes was his last name, I remember, but he came up to him this year and I didn't know who he was. He says I didn't know who he was.
Right.
I was trying to think of who this kid was. I'm like, have I been playing it long enough to this be one of my coach's kids or something? Like, what is this? The guy comes up to him and says, "Listen, you're not going to remember me, but when you played for the Bengals, you came and sat down with me and talked with me and taught me about life. And I just wanted to come up and say thank you and let you know that I made it."
Wow. That's a great story.
Yeah. And it gives me goosebumps now because how many kids did he impact that he doesn't get to know about? Right. And how many players impact kids all the time? I had a
I was
story.
going to say, you've got that story.
I was very sick in the hospital. Didn't know if I was going to make it
Your
for a
head,
while there.
you had completely checked out to the point where the doctor came and grabbed me and said, "You've got to do something to get this kid's head right."
I was done. I had been in the hospital for 2 to 4 months at that point. I
Yeah.
don't even remember how long I was there. Going in for a big surgery. I was done. My favorite player on the Green Bay Packers was William Henderson.
Well, and to tell the story, and one of the reasons I love the Packers organization, at the time the president was Bob Harlan.
Yep,
I called the Packers. I had met Bob once or twice before, but never expected him to answer his phone, and he did.
yep.
And I told him the story about you having to have surgery. This was a few days before. I said, "Could you get William Henderson to send an autographed picture?" And he said, "Sure, absolutely. What hospital is he in?" And I told him, and what room, so I've got it. Well, he goes the next step, and William Henderson calls you, and it wasn't just a 5-minute call.
No, he talked to me for an hour and a half. And he talked about surgery, and he talked about his knee surgeries and how he got prepared for it. And didn't talk about being sick, didn't talk about anything, just talked about getting in the right mindset for surgery, which is not something anybody was really talking to me about at that point. Is still trying to figure out what was wrong
Right?
because we didn't know. And so, yeah, players like this make a huge difference. I was definitely impacted. It got me in the right mindset and
You,
said, you know what, I'm going to make it out of this and we're going to figure out what's wrong.
you were ready
And
to
we did.
walk through fire by the time that call was
I was
over.
ready to go. I was determined to make it happen. That autographed baseball of Robin Yount behind you. Robin Yount sent me an autographed baseball during that
Right?
time.
Laurel Preed was able to get that for you,
Yep.
which thank you again for Laurel for doing that. But it shows you the impact that some of these players can do. And as your mom and I were watching you having this conversations, we're having to kind of turn our heads because we've got tears coming down our eyes. But
Yeah.
those kind of players, by taking the time to really give back to their community, and they didn't, William Henderson, Whitworth didn't have to do those kinds of things,
Nope.
but they did it because they wanted to give back and they truly believe that, if we're doing this, let us help the kids.
Yeah, and took the time to do it. Like I said, I can honestly say I would have had a harder time being here today without that phone call because again, it got me in the right mindset. I was a fullback at that time, and he
Yeah.
was my all-time. I wore 33 on my football team because of William Henderson, and so for him to take the time and literally just talk to me about getting ready for surgery, it changed my mindset, and
William Henderson
I'm here now.
remains in my prayers every night
Yes,
because of
so
what he
thank you
did.
very much, Mr.
Yeah.
Henderson. Obviously, still a big fan. So I am very excited that they do that at the end because I think that is so important.
It's the most important award as far as I'm concerned
Right.
because it shows how the NFL gives back.
Yep.
And again, congratulations.
Yeah, I agree. Rookie of the year, those are obvious. Micah Parsons, Jamar Chase.
That was not even a
Coach of the
question.
year, again,
Okay.
Vrabel earned it. He did. He
He
did. But man, at some point, you've
Matt
got to
LaFleur,
give Matt LaFleur the credit he deserves.
man with the most perfect eyebrows on the planet,
As Aaron Rodgers said last
which
night.
was the funny bit.
But man, you got it because he helped turn Aaron Rodgers
He
around.
did.
Aaron Rodgers was at the end of his
Pe-
rope with the Packers,
People
and
forget how bad he had played or what a downhill slide he was on.
correct,
LaFleur comes in and turned his career around to the point where now we're talking, does he stay or does he go?
right. Now he's two-time MVP.
Back to back, 4-time total,
Yeah,
one behind Manning.
one behind Manning.
The
And
other
he could
great
get there.
regular
Hopefully, he
season,
comes back to the Packers and wins another one.
right? One behind the other great regular season quarterback of all time.
Yeah. I'm hoping Rodgers can get over this hump. I
I
really, really, really do, and I hope he does it with the Packers. I'd love to see him be a
I want
lifetime
to see him
Packer.
come back, but I listened to his speech. It was thanking everybody at the organization. Was it? He thanked LaFleur. He thanked Russ Ball. He thanked Goody. He thanked Mark Murphy. He thanked the fans. Was that a goodbye, or was that we're gonna give this one more ride and I'll be here for the rest of my career?
I don't think Rodgers knows. I don't think anybody knows. I loved his comment about inner circle. That made me laugh.
Yeah.
Considering everybody and their mother apparently thought they were a part of his inner circle at some point or another. Yeah, I love his sense of humor. I love him being for the Packers. I hope he comes back,
I
but
did too.
I still don't know. He may retire.
He's not going to retire. I would I would bet a significant amount of money that he's not going to retire. I think there's only one other place he can go, and that's to Denver.
I think that's the place that makes more sense. I could see the Titans.
I don't think he goes to the Titans. Denver is loaded.
Denver's ready to go.
They've got a better roster or an equivalent roster to the Packers. Um,
You got a younger roster for sure.
a lot of weapons. The Packers have to figure a way to reload again. I know Rodgers, if he stays, will rework his contract.
Adams will get
Devontae,
tagged. He's not going anywhere.
well,
Bakhtiari's
Adams.
going to have to do his contract. I mean, they'll work it all out. Russ Ball's a cap genius.
I hope Adams though will work if he's going to stay. If Rodgers is going to stay for 3 to 5 years, I hope Adams reworks his
Yeah.
contract to give him some more cap room. Will the roster be different? Yes. Do I want him to draft Jake Ferguson from the Badgers because we need a tight end that can catch the ball actually when it's thrown to him right over the middle? Yes. I don't think Ferguson will be there, but
No, that dude's a top 10 pick, man.
he is.
Yeah, unless the Packers do some trading up, which they could. I mean, it'd be nice to get a skill player like that
It would. And
in
it's
the
been one
draft.
they've needed for years. They needed a tight end.
We haven't had one since
Keith
what's his name
Jackson
got
and
hurt.
Chewy.
Yeah, well, even that back to then.
Or
Yeah.
yeah.
So we'll see what happens. Everybody says he's coming back, right? But I don't know. I don't think he knows.
I think he knows at this point because he told the Packers he'd make a decision before the franchise tag had to go on.
Yeah.
He made that pitch for Devontae Adams.
We're gonna know before March if he's staying or not.
I think we'll know in the next 2 weeks.
He'll go on the Pat McAfee show, I'm sure, and
Yeah, it's going to be a big announcement. But I'm hoping, again, for all those people who have ripped me for saying what I said about Rodgers in the past, I want him to stay.
right. I
Yeah.
do too. I'm right there with you.
Okay.
Well, there was another conversation that came up too with the Super Bowl on the Colin Cowherd show, which had talked about what if Rodgers and Stafford were in different places. And just to read this real quick on what he talked about, I have a soft spot for Matthew Stafford, and I'm also over Aaron Rodgers whining about how bad Green Bay is. In high school, Matt Stafford was much better than Aaron Rodgers. Aaron had to go to a junior college. Matt was the #1 high school football player in America. In college, Matt Stafford was better. Stafford was in the NFL draft viewed as a better player. Even early in their NFL careers, Matt Stafford in year 3 took one of the worst rosters in the league to the playoffs in Detroit. Aaron couldn't even get off the bench until year 4. Bye, Joe Burrow. I'll pick you up in a minute.
Hope that's not bad luck for him.
I hope so too. And when he did inherit a great Packers team, he went 6-10. High school, college draft, early career success, Stafford by a mile, and he goes on and on
It's
to
about
talk
it.
about this.
It's a longer clip, but his point is, if Rodgers would have had to go to Detroit and start to play from the jump and didn't have the chance to sit behind Brett Favre for those 3 years, didn't have Bart Starr as a mentor, which doesn't get mentioned on a national scale. We live here, so we knew the story more.
Right.
Starr took him under his wing and said, "Don't look at this as a bad thing. Watch and learn." And he did. But I think if Matthew Stafford is on the Packers, I think we have much greater success in the playoffs.
I agree. That's a big conversation when he came to the Packers was that he needed that time to sit. He had a different throwing motion and had worked really hard on that. And I will say one thing about Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has worked his tail off
Yes,
to get to where he is now. I mean, you'll never hear me say Aaron Rodgers doesn't work as hard, if not harder, than anybody else in this league because he does. He takes his craft very seriously.
he does. And, he came out of that draft with a chip on his shoulders, and everybody's talked about it. That's a driving factor for him. It always has been. Uh, Rodgers had to work very, very hard to get to be a four-time MVP.
Right.
Matthew Stafford was one of those quarterbacks who had all the gifts. But it was just an interesting conversation as to what if things were different? What if the coin flip that went the other way and the Packers had drafted Matthew Stafford? Would the Packers have been different these years?
I think that Matt Stafford would have been one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time.
I do too. I do too. With the coaching we had.
Can you imagine Mike McCarthy with Matthew
Oh
Stafford?
God. Well, a lot of this has come from the fact, look at what Stafford's done going to a good organization instead of the lousy one the Lions have had for years. I do think they're on the right track now, but Stafford gets with a great organization. He's got weapons. He's got a defense that's playing for them.
Yeah.
They even went out and got OBJ for him at the end of the year,
Right.
both having to prove something, and they're in the Super Bowl because of it. They beat San Francisco. They beat Tom Brady, something the Packers have not ever done.
Right.
I think what Stafford's done has been great. I mean, his story is fantastic as well with what his wife went through, and he
Yep.
was there for. This is going to be There's no villains in this Super Bowl.
There's not. There's not. I'm excited for an amazing game.
The biggest
But it
difference.
goes into play. I mean, this is the stat they had up on the Coward Show as well, and I think it's a perfect stat that illustrates the difference. I don't know what it is with Aaron Rodgers in the playoffs.
I mean, that
He chokes,
divisional
right? It's
game.
it's the cool runnings thing we had from earlier in one of our shows, right?
Yeah,
You were ready and
and
you
you blew it.
choked.
Yeah, it. And he was. He had everything there in front of him. You knew all about it. You knew everything there was to know about it, and you
Choked.
choked.
I mean, it was a huge choke, and Stafford's been looking great this year.
He's a man possessed. He's a man to prove. He's a man out to prove. I've always been this good.
Right.
And he could be one of those rare quarterbacks, win one Super Bowl, and he's in the Hall of Fame.
Oh,
I
if he
think he's
wins,
probably a Hall of Famer anyways.
yeah, I was gonna
But
say though, but if he wins, I mean, it cements him in the Hall of Fame.
yes. And it
It's
cements him
it's a
as one of
done
the
deal.
greatest of his generation.
Yeah.
I mean, those stats that you're showing now are almost spooky considering how many more games Rodgers has been in the playoffs.
Yep.
Or was it just Stafford knowing this is my one chance and I'm going to do everything and be ready for it? And he was ready for that big stage.
Who knows? Rodgers has said several times, even himself, Matt Stafford is the most underrated quarterback in the NFL. I
Yeah.
mean, Matt Stafford got a bad rep because he got hurt early in his career and then didn't miss a game since.
And he had a terrible organization.
They're cursed. Hopefully, them letting go of Matt Stafford and actually telling one of their great players, you know what, go play somewhere else
Right.
for a little bit, will actually break the curse. Because I'm with you. I think the Lions finally got the right coach. I think they have a quarterback that they can use for a while while they rebuild the rest of the team.
Mm-hmm.
They got cap strapped, because it was right before they had the rookie contract
Right.
deal in place. And so they were
He was
paying
the last.
Ndamukong Suh and Matt Stafford and Calvin Johnson these massive
I think
contracts.
Stafford's contract was it was a $50 million signing bonus or something. He was the
Yeah,
last quarterback to be drafted where
Bradford
rookies.
was. He was
Oh,
second
that's
to
right.
last.
That's right. I'm
Bradford got the
sorry. I
$70 million
apologize.
a year,
You're
and then
right.
Cam Newton was drafted the first year of the
The rookie
which is
rookie
great because
pay
it helps
scale.
teams
Yeah.
and it helps you see what you have. Can you imagine paying Jordan Love to sit on the bench?
No, and here's the thing. I always thought it was crazy. These guys come out and play 3 and 4 years, and here's a first round draft pick making more money than they do. I knew why
Right.
they were upset. and that
Right.
wasn't right.
Well, how do you build your team around a rookie quarterback
Right.
if you're going to have to pay them half your salary cap?
It always was a burn.
Yeah, and it was getting out of control, and so I think that's a big part of it as well. But I hope Matt Stafford goes in and plays extremely well. Like you said, there's no villains in this Super Bowl. It's two great stories. I don't know who to cheer for.
I it's going to be you're going to be watching the game, and I think you're going to naturally just your heart's going to go to one side or the other, and I don't know where it's going to be. Talking about the game Sunday, I think the big difference is going to be the Rams have a better defensive line than the Bengals offensive line, and that's where the game's going to be won or lost.
The Bengals offensive line is definitely the Achilles heel.
Is Nixon going to be able to run? Are they going to be able to buy Burrow enough time? Those are the questions.
They are. It's a scary defense, but Joe Burrow walks on water.
Well, Joe Burrow has found ways to win. He'll go out of the pocket, he'll extend the play, he'll find the right receiver in the end zone or down the field to get an extra first down. The Rams have always been much more straightforward. They don't
Right.
need those miracle plays where he extended a lot of times. Stafford can stay in the pocket, find OBJ, find his other receivers, and just march down the field.
Yep.
It's
When it
good.
comes to coaching too, I think Sean McVay's a better coach.
He's been there. He's been a big time coach for a while. I think the question is, if he wins, does he become the next John Madden?
Good.
Because I think the Rams are all in this year.
Correct.
I don't think they'll be where they are in 3 years. So
What team is,
yeah,
I
it all
mean,
changes. But I think it comes down to now for you and I, we have to pick our winners for this game,
considering my
and
boy fell down back there.
we have to have our bet.
Yep. So the bet is again, I make salmon on the grill
Mm-hmm.
if the Rams win.
And I make chili.
And
If
so I'm Bengals all the way.
and I'm Rams. I'm taking Matthew Stafford. Michael Stafford? I'm taking Matthew Stafford.
I mean, if Michael Stafford's playing for the Rams, whoever that is, I'm taking the Bengals.
Yeah, I take
even
the Bengals
more.
then too. But with Matthew Stafford playing, I want to see him get his Super Bowl victory.
I do too, but it's the start of a new career. It's Joe Burrow. Again, Joe Burrow walks
I'll
on
take
water,
the
man.
seasoned professionals that they've got on that team, the better coaching, and the Rams are going to win.
Hey, the team is better in LA. I'm not denying that. I am basing my pick strictly
On the
on
guy
one
that
player,
fell
on
off
the
the
guy
wall?
that fell down.
Yeah.
He had to go. He has a Super Bowl game this Sunday. He couldn't stay here all day.
Okay.
It's like one of the Harry Potter.
Yeah, I was going to say
they don't stay there all day.
They don't stay on the chocolate frog cards all day.
Right. He had to go. I get it. It's that one guy down in Texas, the furniture owner.
Oh yeah, the mattress guy.
Yeah, he put a $5 million bet on the Bengals, which is one of the best business moves ever, by the way. You buy $3,000 or more in furniture from
And
me,
if
and
the Bengals
win, it's all free.
He's going to sell a lot of mattresses this weekend.
He is, and that $5 million bet literally covers his losses.
Oh, absolutely. And
so if the Bengals win, there's all the money he needs to cover his losses from the store.
And he may have insurance on it. I don't know, but I give him credit for going for the underdog. The Rams are favored by 4 as of last night.
Right.
The over-under is 48. Which way do you think are going to be over or under on that?
Over.
And I thought my first gut feeling on it, it's going to be under.
No, it'll be over 48 points.
If it's over 48 points, I think the Bengals have a good shot to win.
Yeah.
I honestly think the final is going to be in that 2017, 28, 20.
There's one reason I completely disagree with you. The Rams learned their lesson against Tampa Bay to not take their foot off the gas.
Well, and here's the thing. If the Rams are up by a touchdown, 10 points at the end of the first half, the game is over.
No.
The Bengals are not built to come back from.
That's what we said about the Buccaneers, and
No.
they came back.
Tom Brady was the quarterback of that team.
Yeah,
they were going to come back.
Tom Brady, Joe Burrow.
No, I don't think. I think if the Rams get up to a decent sized lead, they'll keep their foot on the gas, and they'll win the game going
Jamar
away.
Chase is quick, man. They're going to have that deep ball. They're going to connect for at least one, if not a few of them. That's where the Bengals are really dangerous.
It's going to be a fun game.
I think you're silly for betting the under. I think it's definitely going to be over. I mean, 48 points is 24-24.
Just so you know, the guy who was doing the bookmaking on the show I was listening to, he took the under as well.
That's
Not that
24 to
matters.
24. 48 points is 24 to 24. Are you
28-20.
Are you telling me that you don't think either team is going to score more than 20 points?
I don't think so. I think it's going to be. I think the Rams could score 28, but I don't think the Bengals will then score more than 17 or 20.
See, I think we're going to have. We could go by the meme that's going out 34-31, the Simpsons meme. I think it will be in that range, though. I think it'll be each team in the 30-point range.
Then I think the Bengals have a very good shot at winning. But I think the Rams are going to hold them to under 20 points, and I think the Rams win, and the under is the way to bet. And I'll also say I never bet because I lose every time I do. So
I bet and lose a lot of money.
Yeah, we won't go into those stories anymore.
I'm not allowed to sports gamble anymore.
Ever again. Yeah.
I lost lots of money.
What was that? One college championship?
I don't want to talk about it.
I didn't think you
did. A lot
did.
of money. But gambling still is fun, but gamble responsibly. Because you don't want to have to owe thousands of dollars to people.
And we need to have a talk about gambling in sports and how they've, Paul Hornung, Alex Karras were kicked out for a year because they shook hands at the opening of a casino.
And now we have casinos building stadiums.
It's crazy. I'd like to see it go back.
It's a whole new world, man. It's a whole new world. Welcome to the new generation of sports.
Well, everybody's going to have a lot of fun this weekend.
Yes.
Super Bowl. I think they should move the Super Bowl to Saturday, by the way, to give people a chance to recover on Sunday.
Well, I know a lot of people that are taking Monday off.
Exactly. A lot of people do. So, what is your final pick for the score?
I am going to go with internet lore and say 34-31 Bengals win.
And I am going to say 28-17, as I said a little bit earlier. I think that's going to be the score. Rams win.
Who's the MVP?
It always goes to the quarterback. I think honestly, it could be Joe Burrow. If the Bengals win, I think it'll be Cooper Kupp. And, he'll be like the Fred Biletnikoff of this Super Bowl.
I think if the Rams win, Aaron Donald's the MVP.
Wow, a defensive player as an MVP?
I think Aaron Donald will be the MVP. Because if they're going to stop Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase from doing what they do, Aaron Donald's going to have to disrupt that game.
You never see a defensive player as the MVP.
It's been a while. Not since the Seahawks Super Bowl when Wagner was the MVP.
Yeah.
So I got Burrow MVP if Bengals win. I got Aaron Donald for the MVP if the Rams win.
I agree.
But I think you and I have had some fun today and need to call it quits. So before we do end it, I need you guys to do me a favor. I need you to go right here and follow these instructions and like and subscribe and hit that little bell notification so you can get a chance to enjoy these videos just as much as we enjoy making these videos every time we drop them. Any last words before we head out?
Please share these videos with your family and your friends on your own social media. We're trying to get the channel to grow, and it's been growing very well, so thank you for that. But continue to help us grow it by sharing it on your own social media. Go Rams!
Yeah, don't forget to comment below as you hear me say, I want to hear what your mother, father, son, daughter, you know how your family works. I want to know how they feel. Comment below. Let us know what you think. Go Bengals. Go Joe Burrow, you are my hero. Keep going, keep with that swag.
Aaron Rodgers, come back to the Packers.
Aaron Rodgers, please come back to the Packers. Thank you so much for enjoying this with us. You guys have a great weekend. I hope you enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll talk to you next time. This has been Sports Talk with Dad.